I'm the chief investigator on the Papoose study, and Papoose is looking at patient experiences of pregnancy after stoma surgery for IBD. So today I presented the results of the retrospective audit that we conducted across 15 hospitals, and then the next stage for that is going to be a patient questionnaire, and then the development of a patient information aid so patients can make informed decisions about pregnancy after stoma surgery.
Was that a topic that you were particularly interested in, or what?
Gonna say not that I was particularly interested in, but it's one that's very important to patients, and it was something that needed to be done, so I thought, well, let's have a go and do it. I say it's not particularly interesting to me because my surgical history is such that pregnancy is a no-go, so it's cut that out. So pregnancy is not something I'm personally interested in, but on the research side of things, it's really important, and I think the data that presented today shows that it's a massive topic that needs to be investigated.
And how did you get involved with it?
Well, it's a long story. Well, not that long. So 6 years ago, ACPGBI held the Delphi Games, which was looking at defining the research priorities, and they did that in conjunction with patients and clinicians. So I was a trustee of IA at the time, so I got asked to go to one of the meetings, and I went along. I didn't know that patients could be involved in research, so I went along to this meeting and I was like, oh, okay. And then things kind of snowballed from there. And then about 3 years ago, Nicola Fernhead said, I think the time's right for the first patient-led grant application, isn't it, Sue? And I was like, okay, yep, whatever you say. So I put the project together, we put the project together and submitted a proposal, and it got funded.
Why did you want to get involved in research to begin with?
I don't think I ever wanted to get involved in research specifically. It's just something that I kind of fell into. So I went along, discovered that patients could become involved in research, and thought, okay, actually I quite enjoy this. I like it. It's something that I'd like to do a bit more of, and then gradually kind of got more involved, and now I can't imagine not being involved in research. But it wasn't something that I set out to do. It's just a happy coincidence.
Did you have any previous experience of research?
No, well, only doing my undergrad and my master's dissertation, so not actual proper research.
Yeah. So it's not like you were a researcher and you happened to be a patient. It was more.
No, I was a career civil servant at the time.
Okay.
So yeah.
What has the experience been like getting involved in this?
It's been really, really good, and I think really, really worthwhile, because I don't know, sometimes as a patient things happen. You maybe haven't had the best surgical experiences over the years, not through the fault of any surgeons, but just clinically it's not been great. And I think getting involved in research means that you can help hopefully prevent other patients going down that same route, because the more that you interact with clinicians, the more you talk to them, they kind of get to understand more about what it's actually like as a patient living with that disease, because they're great clinicians, but unless they have IBD or cancer or whatever, they don't know what it's like personally. So I think it helps you to give something back to others.
Do you think it's important that research is either led by patients or involving patients?
Yes, 100%. I think the future is joint clinician patient-led research, like myself and Tom Pinkney are doing with the PROFA study. As a patient, it's very hard if it's just you leading a study, unless you're associated with an institution. It is very hard to do it. You have to beg and borrow lots of favours. So I think the future is going to be joint patient and clinician-led research. And I think it's just really important that we do that, because then it makes sure that all research has patient outcomes at the heart of it, rather than we're doing maybe research for the sake of ticking a box to pass an exam.
How have you found the process? Have you been treated any different because you're a patient rather than?
Not differently in a bad way. I think sometimes people they're probably more keen to hear your views as a patient than, say, if you were another clinician. I think if you're another clinician, unless you actually kind of spoke up, in a meeting, people wouldn't necessarily say, oh, Sue, what do you think? But as a patient, everybody's always very keen, but what do you think? From a patient perspective, what do you think? But I think we're very lucky in colorectal that the clinicians that are involved in research are very keen to work with patients and to treat us as equals. And if you say, no, I think that's a really harebrained idea, I don't think you should do it, because patients are not going to want to have that intervention or to do those follow-ups, people will listen and actually alter what they're doing.
What is the research that you're doing?
So I'm involved in a couple of research projects at the moment. Obviously Papoose, which I mentioned, and then the other one is PROFIT. So PROFIT is an international cohort study looking at patient-reported outcomes after peristomal hernia treatment, and it's the first cohort study from the European Society of Coloproctology. So that's going to launch soon, and that involves all patients who are having peristomal hernia treatment, so not necessarily surgical repair, but also on the watch and wait pathway. So that's very exciting. And then I'm working with Susan Moog and Becca Fish on a Delphi consensus on prehabilitation standards for colorectal surgery. So
sounds like you've learned a lot about how these things work. Has it been has there been a learning curve? It's been
a massive learning curve. I think the first few things I went to, I think probably about the first year or more, I felt like I didn't really add anything and that I was a little bit like a fish out of water. But I think it takes time to understand what's involved as a patient rep and kind of what the expectations of you are, and really how that you can influence research. So it's been a massive learning curve. But 6 years ago I went to that first meeting, and now I'm going to be doing a PhD. So things have moved on quite a bit.
Is this something you're working on full time now?
No, so I have a full-time job. I'm the marketing manager for a healthcare company in the stoma and urology world, and this all of this I do currently in my spare time. So I don't have much spare time, but I don't have a family, so it's fine. I guess colorectal research is my family. that makes me sound really sad, but yeah.
How long have you been an IBD patient?
Oh my God. Hang on, so I had my stoma surgery 16 years ago, and I think I had UC for 3 years before surgery, so oh God, that makes me feel really old. It's like 19 years.
But lots of really valuable experience to...
Yeah, although, when you see some of the stuff that's being discussed today, people talk about all the MABs. There was only infliximab when I had my surgery, and infliximab wasn't even licensed for UC at the time, so it was sort of azathioprine, mercaptopurine, and the sort of wonder drug was cyclosporin at the time. So things have moved on a massively long way in 16 years, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing some really fascinating work and important work, and it's good that patients are involved properly, and
it is.
Look forward to seeing what comes out of it.
Thank you.